Dennis, on that machine, it looks like all the ports are closed except for, well, it looks like they're all closed basically. So
it's programmed in my machine.
maybe, or it could be the network which is filtering.
I think it's a network.
All peer-to-peer.
So it works and now it works.
Yeah.
But it isn't a big loss, so.
All right, are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's do this. Welcome, guys. Everybody in the right place. We're here for the Ethereum development Skillshare. How many people have done development on Ethereum so far? All right, that's probably the biggest percentage we've had in this room. We're very lucky to have Denis here with us. Denis was kind enough to suggest that we put together a very simple presentation to show the power of developing on Ethereum. Maybe it seems like a daunting thing, or maybe it's hard to get your head around what it means to do blockchain development. But we're going to try and take advantage of the fact that Denis is here with us and make some headway. So let's jump right in. We're gonna basically start with a little bit of a talk, and I encourage you all to jump in, either if you have something to add to help elucidate the subject matter, or if you have a question. We've got very knowledgeable people in the room to answer your questions. So let's see. Do we want to start with the slides, Denis?
Yeah, we can probably. So I thought it would be more like a discussion session about blockchain development. So first of all, how many of you ever heard of blockchain? The term blockchain? Okay, awesome. How many are familiar what a blockchain basically is and what it does, what the consent mechanism is? Okay, great. I don't have to start from the beginning. How many of you are familiar with Ethereum? Okay, so let's then just jump right in there. So,
Should we? Okay, hold on. Let me share my screen here.
So basically, a brief intuition about Bitcoin is what Bitcoin is a key value store. You can imagine like this, and the keys are like addresses or names. For example, Alice Augustin, something, and jump in the slides and. Rules which are validated in a decentralized way, so we can just manipulate this decentralized ledger in a very specific way. Can you put
next
slide?
Yeah.
Next slide. And
More?
Yeah. And basically, what those rules are in Bitcoin is we can say, "Hey, welcome." We can say. Alice wants to transfer some funds to Bob, and the rules is, well, she can just transfer as much as she has. So if she would like say, I want to transfer 6 to Bob, it will be invalid. And it is valid if she said, I want to transfer 5. This is basically Bitcoin, and what Bitcoin does is it does it in a decentralized way. So it's just a bunch of data and rules to manipulate this data. And it's nothing more. But it's this huge complex thing out there, and which is worth like 10 billions at the moment, and really complex algorithms. So it's also kind of hard to handle. And this is also a limiting fashion because you cannot do a lot of stuff on there, just like manipulating keys and values in this fashion. So just what it was designed for. And this is where Ethereum is shining, because Ethereum takes it to another level. It is Turing complete. So how many of you know what Turing completeness is? Awesome. So Turing completeness is basically you can program whatever you can think of. Everything which is able to run on your phone, on your laptop, is being able to deploy to Ethereum and then run out there. And developing for Ethereum is also really easy. Next slide, please. We just have a JavaScript-like language which we use to develop on it. And next slide, please.
Okay, well, let me stop you for a second there, though. Like Ethereum is like a Turing complete. Like if Bitcoin is programmable money, like you can, I don't know, split it between destinations or do the simple things you can do with Bitcoin. You're saying that you can do lots and lots of other computing style things using Ethereum.
Basically, everything you can imagine, which is intuitively imaginable, can be built onto Ethereum.
Okay.
Right. This is what Turing completeness means.
So if Bitcoin is like a global money, then Ethereum is a global computer.
Well, the Ethereum Foundation said a really good metaphor to imagine is it a single pin virtual machine, which is a virtual machine which is there once in the whole world.
Okay.
And the state is validated in a decentralized fashion. Yeah, and you can deploy like everything up there.
So I know the audience is a developer audience, but you know, I studied computer science, and I still kind of have a hard time getting my head around, like, why do we need a world computer? Why don't we just have computers? So do you have like what would be your answer to that question? Like, why do we need a world computer as opposed to just a bunch of networked computers?
Well, network computers are hackable, and you never know where the computers are. So currently we have this client server architecture where the servers are owned by Google or owned by Amazon, and you have, whether if you want to run your software, you have to trust them. This is trustless and open by default. So everything which is run on top of it is known, and everybody validates the state, and it's public-private cryptography. So it's all everything is like secure by cryptography, basically.
So is it integrity of computing, like you can trust this, that it's open source and that it's doing what you say that it's going to do, and it's not like.
The right term is trustless, so you don't have to trust it because you can validate everything, and everything is backed by a crypto proof, which you can run on, and everything is kind of secured in that.
Okay.
Before Ethereum came along, what did people used to refer to as a virtual machine? What was a virtual machine before we started having blockchains?
Well, I can answer that. So Java, running on your operating system, either Windows or Linux, or is a virtual machine. Java is a virtual machine itself, but it's also a programming language, and that programming language talks with the operating system via the virtual machine. So you could say there's a machine on the machine, and this also allows you to have different computers next to one another and make kind of virtual machine layer on top of that. And that is before Ethereum, and virtualization is often done in big server factories.
Does it matter that we all know what virtualization is from this point of view? So it's a simulation of an operating system from within an operating system.
Exactly. So.
Okay.
It's kind of an abstraction over the machine, because if you compile something, you have to compile it for the machine. And if you have like one virtual machine, which is like Java, then you can just compile it to this virtual machine, and it's runnable everywhere where this virtual machine runs. You don't have to care which machine is under it.
Okay. And then relate it back to Ethereum?
Related back to Ethereum, it's a single virtual machine. So it's one virtual machine with one single shared state, which is decentral. So it runs somewhere, and everybody knows that it's there and can validate the state. And everybody who is interacting with it throughout a crypto proof, which is also validated by everybody, that indeed this actor interacted with the single virtual machine, and the state is updated by certain rules.
So is every node on the network also validating, but doing performing all the transactions that the entire virtual machine is doing?
Exactly.
Until sharding comes in?
Exactly this.
Okay.
So currently every full node from the Genesis block until now validates every single action there was to be secure that this state, which is currently have, was indeed produced in the right manner.
So if I ask the Ethereum computer to divide 22 by 7, every node is going to divide 22 by 7 and if one node gives the wrong answer, then it will be discarded. Is that kind of
exactly this? So if one node, so we have something called proof of work, which is kind of a random selector to the nodes. So everybody is free to validate it and free to discard whether if some state occur which was invalid by invalid result, but everybody is also free to like say my new consens is the new state. So I release the new state.
your new consensus?
If I was chosen randomly by this proof of work algorithm, and a proof of work is just a random function who chooses one actor to publish the next state, which
okay.
will become the new consensus. And if this actor published an invalid state by releasing an invalid result, nobody was going to adapt his state. And there is a game theoretical reward mechanism, so everybody is like incentivized to taking part in validation and taking part in basically going for releasing their version of state as the public version of state.
Okay. And so, and every piece of computing costs a little bit of transaction cost, like that 22 divided by 7, I'm paying for that answer?
So with Turing completeness, there are downsides as well. We have, before we not check every transaction because it's Turing complete, we cannot be sure that it will hold. We have a holding problem basically. So, and in order to find way around this, we have gas cost. And gas cost is like, for every basic operation of the virtual machine, we pay an adequate cost relative to the complexity of this state. So for example, if you divide 22 by 7, it was like a minor computational,
A very minor thing. So.
yeah, but if you like compile a hashing algorithm over a large file, you will have to pay more. And this payment is received by this actor who is going to publish his state as a new state.
Okay. And are the costs supposed to approximate what I might pay in server costs, like already,
No,
like a DigitalOcean or
it's-
something?
So you can think of Ethereum as at the state 9060 computing. So your phone is much faster than the Ethereum network. It's really just, we're starting out in
Right.
computing. It's really expensive to compute on the Ethereum. So yeah.
Okay. I'm beginning to understand.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Now let's see some code, right?
All right.
So our goal today will be to develop Ubitcoin, which is kind of our own Bitcoin.
Right. Ubitcoin. It'll be very valuable next year at this time. So I would get in, guys. Ubitcoin.
I hear we'll be able to exchange one Bitcoin for one Bitcoin in 1 year.
Really, one Ubitcoin for one. That sounds very valuable.
Next slide, please.
It's a stable coin.
We're going to discuss it as well. So this is the whole code we need to like simulate Bitcoin, right? Because
This is Bitcoin code, like the equivalent of a
yeah,
of a cryptocurrency?
we have a programming language called Solidity. We have several on Ethereum, but this is kind of the de facto standard one. And everything on it is called a contract, basically. So
we're looking at Solidity code right now,
yes.
and this is enough code to create a crypto coin and deploy it on.
So you would say that every self-contained piece of code that you want to run on Ethereum is by definition called a contract, even if it's just 22 plus 7.
Unfortunately, so yes. It is old terminology which we overtook from Nick Szabo, which was a pioneer in cryptosphere, and he first came up with the term smart contract, which is like from the legal perspective that are contracts which can unfold themselves without human interaction. So we kept this terminology up until now, but it's kind of discarded terminology. So we're searching for a better term, but then up until now we don't have anything better. And Solidity have this keyword by default called contract. So yeah.
So can I see this as an object or a class or?
It's equivalent to class. So basically, if you're familiar with Java, this is a class, what we call contract. But just to keep it separate, this is a contract on Ethereum. And let's go over the code a little bit. So we have a mapping there, which maps from addresses to uints, and uints is an integer value, which indicates our balance. And an address is an actor, basically. And human actors as well as contracts are both addresses, just addresses. Except when human actors or outside actors interact with the blockchain, they have to sign it with a private key, and their address is the hash value of the public key of their private key. So everything is secured with crypto.
So sorry, Uport is taking advantage of this, right?
Level of indirection for the.
From between contract and somebody, really.
Yeah.
You had a presentation on HAM.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah.
So
Okay.
basically, what we can do now is because our balances are public, we can look up every balance of every address there is, and we can instantiate this. So function Ubitcoin, say it's a constructor, and we construct the first Ubitcoin with certain owner as the complete owner of every coin and a certain balance, which we can like just size the size of the complete Ubitcoin. And a simple send function, which we have to pass an address where we want to send our balance to and the amount of Ubitcoins we want to send. And the logic is also simple. So we see if we have sufficient funds available and then subtract it to our own balance. Message.sender is always the sender of this message. And the balance too is added. So this is basically the intuitive.
So I have a
version of
question.
Bitcoin.
There's a persistence layer here, right? Like the balances that people own.
Yeah.
Right. So and is that persistence layer stored on Ethereum?
It's stored on Ethereum as well, and the amount of data you store, you have to pay for it. And every time you like add data to it or remove data to it, you have to pay for all those transactions.
Okay, so this data that is this ledger that's we're
Yeah.
keeping track of Ubuntu coin. Do I have to set up something separately that always feeds that persistence layer so that it continues to live? Like
No,
10 years from now, what will this data be here?
The benefit the benefit of Ethereum is that once you deployed it, it lives on Ethereum forever. Basically, forever Ethereum will exist. It will live there, and you will always have to look it up. Can look it up. Yeah. So it's persistent there.
Okay. So once something's saved in the Ethereum database or the Ethereum persistent data storage, it will be there forever.
Exactly this.
So if I put a picture of myself up there, like it'll be there.
Forever.
It's like the Georgia Guidestones. Like it'll be there. Like it's like the pyramids. It's like somebody wrote it in stone.
It has advantages, but it has disadvantages as well. For example, it is censor proven, so nobody can come up. For example, governments or security agencies that can size like some values inside. Like for servers, for current server farms, it's perfectly practiced. If you have something illegal on there, then the police came and closed the server. And here it's impossible to do so.
For better or worse.
Yeah, for better or worse. Exactly.
Right.
So, and if an error is thrown for this, like say somebody you want to pay 100 Bitcoin to somebody and you only have 50 left.
Yeah.
So how do you handle the error?
There is no error. So if this fails,
Yeah.
then the whole transaction throws.
Yeah.
And is not included. So the state is not included, but you still have to pay for everybody checking that you have produced an invalid state.
I see.
Actually, in this one, it doesn't throw it; just doesn't do anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you have to make this a real example.
yes,
you have to put in the throw
You could put it through.
logic.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's just like a pass or something.
But here we check whether you have sufficient funds, and if not, you don't do anything, right?
So if somebody writes bad code, it's still going to cost them? Does that mean we're going to have less bad code?
It doesn't mean this, obviously, because we can still produce bugs, and bugs can be exploited. For example, there was DDAO, which maybe all of you are familiar, which got exploited by 150 million. Luckily, we forked off and resolved it in a kind of good way. But still, you have to you have to be really attentive in how you program it. Is kind of easy to do bad things, so you have to watch out by programming.
Yeah, I'd be scared to death to write code for the Ethereum network, but based on, well, at least, if it was doing something, significant, I'd be a little bit
because
timid.
this guy, the DAO, he really worked hard on making it
Bug-free.
bug-free, and was even a company worldwide recognized as being very good at security, and still. They went over it. The auditor, they went over it.
Did it turn out that it was like a top 100 at the most if you took them very generously? So there was some talk after the fact of exactly what kind of audit it was performed and how good the company actually was. And I don't have any, I cannot do any reference off the top of my mind, but if I remember correctly, it turned out that they were not exactly top level auditors, and they just kind of gave a 3-day look at the code and said, yeah, sure, go ahead.
Right.
And they
But am I more nervous as an Ethereum developer that if something goes wrong, it's going to, going to be personally liable or?
Well, legally speaking, it's a really new space, and legally speaking, we don't have tools available to not program good programs, nor be legally, well, how to put it?
It's Wild West, right?
Yeah, it's Wild West. So nobody can say anything.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
By the way, at this point it would be nice if you give the audience a summary of the discussion we had the other day about having languages on the Ethereum network which are machine provable,
Yes.
man-hour provable, or etc. etc.
This was thank you for this. So this was like one of the major topics at the DevCon 2, which just taking place like a few weeks ago, and everybody was really nervous about security, contract security. So a JavaScript-like language isn't maybe the best choice to prove financial tools in the size of the DAO. So everybody was pushing in formal verification and logical languages, which are kind of either be easy provable their correctness or valid by design. So there are certain tools out there, for example, process alchemy and spatial logics, where you can program and not having obvious bugs like you do in JavaScript-like languages, because you program it with kind of logic and have state separation in the complete state space, not only in unit test space.
If I remember correctly, we were discussing that there's a tension between the three possible directions that the programmer could choose programming on Ethereum. So you could either have a very simple language to learn, which is very insecure, easy to prove, difficult to prove, a difficult language to learn, which is very easy to prove nonetheless, but that would be beyond the purview of 98% of developers. And in another direction, away from both of them, but possibly in the best space, domain-specific languages, which are relatively simple, easy to prove, but that can only perform a limited number of functions. So that would be domain-specific for legal, financial, or whatever other types of contracts you want to write.
So this is the benefit of the virtual machine. So with the virtual machine, we kind of have tools available to program languages on top of it, like we do with the Java. We don't only have Java, we have Scala, we have Clojure, we have all the variety of different languages. And in this field, there's also a lot of teams focusing on developing domain-specific languages. For example, Eris is doing legal markdown, which is kind of a legal template for lawyers, be easy readable, and not you cannot do anything wrong because it's just like template filling. Yes. But the development is also there to develop domain-specific languages, which, like you stated, are limited in their scope, but
make sure at home. Come on in.
But easy to prove and easy, hard to do anything wrong inside. But it's just because Ethereum is like a really new space. It's not developed at all, and it's all future music. But this is where the directions go. So,
welcome, guys. Welcome. So we're just in the middle of basically kind of talking about the why of Ethereum, and we're looking at a little bit of code, but we're getting questions about, I don't know, how you persist data and how you choose the languages, how secure are the languages, how friendly is it to program on. You haven't missed too much, so.
Yeah, our goal is to code an own coin, which is Ubuntu, and currently Solidity is still the only choice we have for coding coins. So we will stick with it and test it. So basically we have a unit and integration test framework and exceptions test framework, and we're going to write unit tests for this with a tool called dapple, looks like this. And currently this is how we write unit tests. So
what is dapple?
Dapple is like a contract system multi-tool. You can write unit tests with it is deployment handler. You can write environment scripts, choose different chains. Basically, it's a Swiss knife for Ethereum developers to make it easy to come in.
Okay.
Right, and what is happening in this code is we instantiate a new Ubuntu coin with this contract as the owner and 42 coins in existence. We log it, and then we send to some address, we don't care about it, but we send it 12 coins, query the new balance, print it out again, so log it, and assert that the new balance of this owner is 30. So it's successfully sent it to some address. And we can run it, like stated at the top, with dapple test // report, and looks like this.
Does everyone understand what they're looking at here? Yeah. Okay.
It is successfully.
Everything works in
Everything
PDF.
works.
PDF is a great development platform.
So great. Now we tested our coin. It is successfully working, so we can go out and deploy it, right? Nothing to fear.
Okay. Next slide.
And with dapple, we provide deployment scripting. So you're not only wanting to write one contract which you put out there, but in most use cases you put contract systems, which is difficult to orchestrate and difficult to upgrade. So you don't want to upgrade the whole contract system, but you want maybe upgrading part of it. If, like, for example, an exploit is found. So there is dapple script, which is deployment language, which looks like this. What's happening here is that the message sender, so basically our address, is the owner, and we instantiate a new Ubud coin with 100,000 entities and export as Ubud coin the new created address.
So this is actually creating the coin itself that will.
Exactly this. So if we run it with dapple script run deploy, because we named our contract deploy, it will create a new coin on the live net.
And the export is the real deployment.
No, the real deployment is called by the new keyword.
By the new
Keyword. So, and export is just to save it in our persistent in our descriptor file, so we can look it up and always see what coin is equal to some address we have default. And
How do you know if you're deploying on the testnet or the live net?
dapple handles as well. So dapple has some keyword called dapple chain, and you can list different environments and see on which type of environment you are. So if it's on the testnet, if it's on a live net, if it's on some private nets, or if it's on a local test net, which dapple sets up for you. So you have all freedom to choose between environments. And in fact, you can write multi-environment scripts with it.
Oh, okay.
But here we just go on the testnet. So our Ubud coin is already live on the testnet, which is nice. And this is its address.
So this is the address of the coin itself, or the programming that controls the coin.
Exactly. So the Solidity code we saw previously with the balance sheet and the send function, it lives exactly on this address, and it's persistent there like forever. It will be forever there with 100,000 coins. And it's unhackable. The government cannot size it, and it's just living there, and everybody will.
So if you actually go to this address, this will be the key, and then you can see the code, or is this encrypted?
The code is not encrypted. The code is compiled.
Yeah.
So you don't see the code you see previously in Solidity, but Solidity compiles down to EVM code, which is kind of similar to assembly code. But in order to convince people to use your code, you have to publish your code, so people who are interacting with the coin see that isn't exploitable and you cannot size it or anything like this. So,
but it's not required to let it work.
It's not required technically, but it's socially required.
Yeah. And so, this assembly kind of language, what was the name?
Ethereum virtual machine, EVM.
Yeah, EVM. And so you can, if you're smart, you can write your coin in that directly.
Exactly this, yeah. So we currently have also different languages. So the first language out there was lower level Lisp. So it was Lispy-like EVM code language, but still really near to the original EVM language. The next one was Serpent, which is Python basically, but just for the EVM. And the current one is Solidity, which is more advanced and provides a more abstracted way to interact with contracts. Also, a really huge topic on the DevCon 2 was the switch between EVM, because EVM was completely engineered by Ethereum Foundation from scratch, which is kind of bad because they introduced bugs with it, and you cannot use the current ecosystem. So, for example, if we have like one cryptography library written in C, you cannot use it and compile it down to the EVM because we don't have sufficient tools available. So a huge topic was the switch from EVM to WASM, so WebAssembly, basically.
WASM?
Exactly. Which is in discussion to becoming the next virtual machine layer in Ethereum. So once Ethereum hard forks, maybe we will switch to Basel.
That's a big shift.
It's a big shift, exactly.
What kind of governance decides that kind of decision making? Like if you're going to change virtual machines, how does the Ethereum community arrive at that answer?
It's a really interesting question, and I don't have an answer for this, and I think nobody has an answer for this. The best example was the DAO hard fork, whether we should fork or not, was exactly this decision. So first the foundation decided something, then they discarded it, then they asked the community, then the question stood in the place where who is the community to ask, and
because do you have the potential problem like Bitcoin has, where there's the community cannot agree on a fix, and so you're stagnant. You're not unable to introduce a fix to a problem because you can't reach consensus on a question like the virtual machine. Like this could be the block size question, right?
Exactly. And this was also a really huge topic, blockchain governance, basically. So how do we solve blockchain governance? Who is Ethereum? Is the foundation Ethereum? Is the community Ethereum? Are the miners Ethereum? It's an open question, and there is a lot of research in it, but still not solved.
Interesting. Okay.
But let's finish Ubercoin, right? So this is the address, and currently it's like really awkward to interact with it. Like if you guys want to have some Ubercoins or want to send some Ubercoins, how would you do this? And let's write an UI for this, right? So it's also really simple in Ethereum space. We write just an HTML template. So we print out our own address, our own balance, and have some form to send value to someone. So this is the whole HTML you need.
It's not very much HTML.
It's not very much. And this is logic, which is written in Web3. So we in
So
JavaScript, I mean, yeah.
Can you explain Web3?
Web3 is a JavaScript framework provided by the Ethereum Foundation, which makes it like it's a set of tools you need to interact with, or you want to have to interact with chains and Ethereum as a whole.
Okay.
Kind of an abstraction layer.
Right.
So it runs in the browser and it communicates directly
Exactly this, yeah.
with Ethereum.
Yeah. It's a huge improvement in accessibility. So everybody who's familiar with HTML and JavaScript, which is the large stake of the programming community, can now write dApps, which are completely decentralized. And this is a code. So let me run through it. So first we instantiate our coin based on a descriptor, like we call it API. Binary interface. Then we instantiate our address we got by deploying it. Print out our own address based on Web3. So the endpoint we interact with has always one address. It's our own address provided by the public key, which we print out. Then we print out, query our balance, and some logic to send. We do it by coin send to value, and it's just basic JavaScript. I don't think it's.
And this communication layer, is this through WebSockets or is it more like
It's through RPC, remote procedure calls, and whenever you have a chain running, it has this RPC interface, and Web3 basically wraps through sockets or through REST or something RPC calls. Yeah.
So it can be really fast.
It can be really fast. Yeah. Some question on this code? Right, and by deploying this, we have our Ubuntu. I think it's open somewhere, right?
Yeah. Should be on one of those tabs.
Nope.
Let me type it in there.
And this is Ubuntu already working, and it just works because Gary has MetaMask installed, and MetaMask is a really awesome tool.
Providing talked about MetaMask on Sunday night. One of the consensus guys did MetaMask. And so MetaMask allows the browser to talk to the Ethereum computer. I don't need a copy of the blockchain on my.
Exactly this. So actually, you need a private key and a wallet on your machine and a synced up chain from the Genesis block up until the current state to validate that you indeed have the right state and can look up certain things, like, for example, your balance on the Bitcoin, and can interact with it. And what MetaMask does is just a browser plugin to provide this kind of abstraction. You don't need a running chain on your machine, and the wallet isn't somewhere out there in some cloud, but it's stored in your browser. So key signature and transaction signature is happening inside your browser, and then the transaction is sent out in the white space of Ethereum, and it is included. So you don't need a running chain. This is what MetaMask.
Am I paying a small amount to serve this page up to myself?
No.
No.
Lookup is completely free,
Okay.
and if you trigger transactions, you have to pay for it.
Okay. So if I were to use this interface to send, I have 400 Ubud coins, right? I'm rich. That's very valuable.
So there are
Ubud coins.
100,000 in existence. It depends on.
And if I do something like I want to send coins to somebody, then I would have to pay. Is that right?
Then you would have to pay.
And is that going to come out of my balance in my plugin? Like, do I need a
So there are different environments. The one environment is like the live net chain, which with the coin Ether has real world value. You can trade it on the market. And we have modern testnet, which is just a testnet, and everybody can use it to like test stuff. And there is really easy to get coins. We have for cards. And actually, if you install MetaMask, you are provided for free testnet Ether, so you can play around with. And if you have MetaMask installed, we can send out you some Ubud coins right now. So,
all right.
Can you open the top here?
Okay, so what are we doing?
Top,
Here.
and then last slide. Basically this. So all the code I showed you is available at GitHub, the front end and the back end. All you need to deploy your own Ubud coin or experiment with the code is dapple. So you have to install dapple npm install. But the guide here is provided as well, with some learning resources and a description of this repository. And if you join our GitHub chat, we can send out some Ubud coins to you, and you can trade to each other.
So you created 100,000, right?
100,000, yeah.
And I only have 400? You only sent me 400?
I can send you more.
That's kind of
So
stingy.
it's in
Just
your,
how much
so
for
you're,
you, doctor?
so you're the contract. So if you deploy this really on the Ethereum network,
It's really on the Ethereum network, but
Oh.
on the test chain.
okay. But let's say you deploy it for real.
Yeah.
Then this 100,000. How does it work now? So who's the owner of this 100,000?
Because I created it, right? So in our coin logic, we have in the constructor said that those who create the coin receives the whole balance. You can come up with your own logic, and this is the whole point. So if you want to distribute it equally to like a set of owners, or like mint it somehow, doing an airdrop, for example, or it's really up to you. This was a minimal example. It's in fact.
How deep is the logic? So like it's something that is a default in Solidity, that if you create a coin, you're also the owner of the balance, or the maybe it's a stupid question, but I don't know how this works.
Can you open the talk again? The talk. So basically, the logic is exactly what we have to find, and we for ourselves can come up with the logic by saying, okay, this contract Ubud coin is the logic, and the coin works exactly how we define it in this language. You can come up with whatever scheme you want to. And in fact, we have an expert on this here. So Ryan is one of the maker team members. I think this was here. And he is working on stable coins. So coins which are mathematically kind of provable stable and not fluctuating in price. This is, for example, one use case you can come up with coins.
But this isn't really a coin. This is just a piece of data that we're keeping track of. I mean, we call it a coin, but it could be anything, right? It could be like...
A coin is a social construct, so you have to believe in its values, and therefore it's becoming become value.
Uh-huh.
So I could now, if I have friends on some exchange, I could say, okay, can you put this on the exchange, and I will put some bitcoins already, make my first transaction some bitcoins, so people see that there's really, and then go from there somewhere.
Exactly this. So this is a really trivial Hello World example, but we have a token standard which is called ERC20, and if you follow this token standard, it's just how you define the interface. For example, you have to have a set of certain functions. It will become a real token on Ethereum, and then it will be trivial to plug it in a decentralized exchange and trade it to other coins, or have in a standard Mist wallet, which is like the wallet provided by Ethereum by default, and have all kinds of standard token stuff with it. So yeah,
it's basically very easy then.
It's very easy.
So we were talking about complementary currencies before, and if there is this, it's called ERC. It's like a standard coin interface.
Yes.
So that basically so that they're interoperable. So if you follow this ERC standard, then your coin would be ready to be traded in a decentralized way based on the convention of that everybody's using this standard.
It's not everybody using the standard, but for example, we have a decentralized exchange in place, and the decentralized exchange is coded in a way that it can look up pretty easily through this ERC20 interface, like the balance of someone, or can make transactions through a proxy because certain proxy functions built in, stuff like this. So it's kind of like a plug-and-play system for tokens.
So let's say that I wanted to give my token value by burning Bitcoin. Is there code that could Ethereum or some code that I write in Ethereum validate that I burned some coin? Or
actually, yes, it could. There's a project called BTC Relay, which is because Ethereum is Turing complete, it can do anything. And one of the things it can do is act in itself as a lifeline for Bitcoin. So it has to have transactions pushed to it by incentivized actors, which we call relayers. But Ethereum itself can be aware of what's going on with Bitcoin, and it can validate that certain things have happened on Bitcoin, which we include perhaps the burning of Bitcoins.
oh, okay.
It doesn't work.
burn them.
What? Well,
It's an interchange, it's an exchange, it's not burning. No? Just trade Bitcoin.
Yeah,
to Ether,
you could
not
prove that.
burn
Yeah,
Bitcoin.
why you want to burn them that's another question. But
Expensive signaling.
yeah, or you could say like, if you send Bitcoins to this address, then I will give you your Bitcoin, for example.
But then those coins at that address are not destroyed. They are.
No, in that case, but yeah, whether you want to burn them or not is another question. But like, if you did want to burn them, you could prove that it was doable.
And the question was, can Ethereum like check a value on the Bitcoin blockchain and make a decision based on that?
It can check that a certain transaction happened. Yeah.
Okay.
One question, like this standard token described, just like a contract for best practices creating a token. Right?
Exactly this.
As
Yeah. Wow.
So can you make an external request from the virtual machine
From Ethereum to Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's an external request from the virtual machine.
Yes, so communicating with the outside world, the world outside of the virtual machine, is difficult to do in a completely trustless way. So if you want to do it in a trustless way, you need to have some kind of maybe like incentive layer that incentivizes actors in the real world to go ahead and do whatever it is you want to. Or you can like go down like go to a more trusted model where you have some actual like entity, maybe it's a big legal entity or something that you then expect will actually just follow through with actions, which could include broadcasting to Bitcoin or maybe making actual like banking transactions.
So that's kind of interesting. Like if I had an Oracle database with some values that I want to retrieve for programmatic logic or something, not everybody in the world has access to my Oracle database, so every node can't perform that transaction, right?
Yes.
So that way you can hide a little bit of your business logic.
Well, no, I don't think you can, because if every node can't get to my closed door business logic, then it can't be executed, right? It's got to be open
you
source.
could write your own smart contract, which kind of like interacts with your database. No? Maybe on some level. I asked you. It's a question.
You could do that, but you're moving away from a trustless environment. You're moving into
For
an environment
himself,
which
it would be trustful, but for the rest,
Yeah.
we would just have to trust that your smart contract is doing what you said.
Well, in fact, if you want to interact with some service provider which you know is centralized by default, for example, Google or Amazon, if you want to, like, for example, deploy a new Amazon EC2 instance, which is a virtual private server, because you want to interact with it, you can do it through Ethereum, through some relay, which is authenticated as the Amazon Web Service authority.
This is actually fascinating. Like, can you build business logic that interacts with the real world? Like, couldn't a contract take a certain action if Hillary Clinton is president?
A lot of people working in Erfurt.
I mean, is that like, am I out of scope? Like, on
No,
that?
you're very in scope.
Yeah.
This is a very broad topic which you probably call prediction markets. So things like Augur or Gnosis are examples of that. Ways in which you can verify in the VM on the blockchain that something outside has happened, and it's no one's really solved it on production scale yet. So you have to have ways of getting like the wisdom of the crowds in that case to see some things have happened.
What do you mean that nobody has solved them on a production scale yet? They're not being deployed, or
That's what I mean.
I mean, be deployed very soon.
Yeah, soon, but what I mean is we haven't seen them work at scale, so we don't know if they'll actually. We think they'll work. We don't know.
Okay, do we want to show Ubuntu working? Or do we want to?
Sure. So if someone wants to receive some Ubuntu, just post their address inside of our GitHub channel.
Oh wait, so we've got the Gitter channel, right? Where's that? Why am I losing tabs? All right, here's the down here.
Tabs on the blockchain. Next
It's a tab chain. I can do a tab chain. That's like,
No, it's
there it is.
This GitHub channel. And I will forward some Ubuntu.
Okay, so is that, where's my address? This is my address.
So,
You have my address already, right? But wait, this is my address.
yes.
So I can cut that. I can put it in the. I can put it in here.
So how much you want to receive?
How about 3?
100,000. Of
I'm a
course,
baller.
you can do this.
Okay, so am I going back to my interface here?
So I sent it already out, and what's currently happening is we have a block time of something about 15 seconds in Ethereum. So every 15 seconds, the state is updated. So we probably have to wait like 15 to 20 seconds. But
And
then you should see it by updating the browser.
So when I'm in Bitcoin and the Bitcoins haven't arrived yet, I get on the like some sort of blockchain.
Explorer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's something similar for Ether.
We have several. Etherscan is probably the best one. Etherscan.io.
Okay.
Um,
Presumably these things are happening quite slowly. Like you wouldn't be building a real-time system or
slowly is relative, right? So in Bitcoin we have a 10-minute block time or something, or maybe sometimes even 30-minute block time. It depends on.
Mhm.
And here 10 seconds, 15 seconds is like a huge improvement, and with sharding and different scalability tools on Ethereum, like with stake, we will move even lower down. In a really fast.
But I'm trying to think of the computing use cases that would where you need what kind of thing would you build where you'd need 15 seconds in between state changes? Like, do you see what I'm asking? Like,
yes. Well, currently in like banking, in the wire transfer, it takes me in Europe send someone money, and it takes 3 days. Even
Right.
and if they are weekend and holiday in between, maybe it takes a week.
right.
And a week in between like 10 seconds is like a huge difference. So this is a true.
But I mean, now we've got the power of a Turing complete computer. Like, what kind of things besides updating a single ledger? Like when you got
updating enough ledgers that there's like this trust network blockchain, so you need to have like not one machine, but like need to be replicated in different.
Right.
So enough trust.
But like, I'm trying to think of like the logic progression where I'm waiting 15 seconds for each state update. Like, what kind of systems am I building? Is it like, it's not a real-time system, right? Like, I'm not, you know, when I move my cursor and the thing moves around the screen, like the state is the XY coordinates of the cursor, right? But if I had to wait 15 seconds every time I got a new XY coordinate, I wouldn't program a mouse movement on the Ethereum computer.
But
Right,
that's
so-
not Photoshop on the Ethereum virtual machine.
Right. So I'm saying, what is the good thing to develop on
Poker, for example.
poker? Oh, okay. So like what card everybody has.
Yes. So for example, between turn rounds, there is more than 15 seconds left, and this is one perfectly valid use case. In fact, we have different games on the blockchain already. For example, roulette or poker or different ones, gambling basically. But this is one use case.
Okay.
Is this why they're trying to bring the block time down to 3 seconds for Casper? Because the 15 seconds seems to be too much for certain use cases.
True. So the lower you get, the better, right? So
Yes.
if you have like millisecond block time, by still keeping decentralization, it's a good thing to have. Cover more use cases. So, but your coin should be there already. So if
should
you
be.
refresh,
to
How many
refresh.
times do you think that the contract should, maybe I'm using the terminology wrong, but how many times do you think that the average contract should change
No.
state when you are doing something on it? Because it seems to me that most contracts only change state once or twice, from what I can think. But I think you got lost with something else.
yeah, I get lost here. Sorry.
Actually, the problem you're asking about, the increasing speed, is like the problem that people think about. It's called the state channels. Basically,
State channels.
it's you start some smart contract, you put some logic outside the smart contract, so like Copper is actually working on it, and you just like get a result back to the smart contract, and then you find out that everybody agrees on it. Then you can speed up the time in between this transaction that you don't have like this 15 seconds. But there's like smart people working on it.
But if you don't trust the people that you're doing the contract with, shouldn't you check post every step, not just the entrance and the exit of the contract? So if you play a poker game and you check in, play a poker game somewhere else, and then check out, how can you make sure that each card was played in the right way at the right time?
And actually look at Eva because she could explain it. Which is not listening. Can you explain state channels in some words?
So each party is signing each time password thing back and forth. And because this digital signature is highly trusted, and they put a deposit on escrow in a smart contract at the beginning, and then at the end they claim the deposit if both parties agree to close the channel.
That's very similar to the Lightning Network, isn't it?
There's
Same
similar.
concept.
Okay.
It's like a side chain for logic.
But it's supposed to be much faster, and then it can be over any communication channel. You can use it WebRTC, you can, whatever, like telehash or something, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be on the blockchain. It's just between two people.
That makes my brain hurt.
Yeah, they're still in development, and there's still this weird issue where when you close the channel, one party can say that can forward the last token, and so that problem is still not solved. There's some guys. There's a network called the Raiden network that's developed by He's working on that.
Raiden, what's it called?
Raiden.
R-A-I-D-E-N.
Like the Mortal Kombat god.
And the key, what I was missing, my explanation before was like people put money in both and agree to go on the state channel, and only if they agree in the end they get the money back. So
Okay.
this is how I understand.
There's also on the Lightning Network current design. There's also punishment for cheating, right? Like if you, I don't remember exactly when it gets triggered, but if you try to claim that, if you try to close the channel
without some transactions that have occurred later, the other party has a window of time to claim that you have cheated, prove to that you have done so, and steal the money that you put into the channel, if I'm not wrong, right? So this is something similar.
Yeah, that's how they're solving the last sorting token issue with having a window.
So these are computing concepts that your average everyday developer is not really up to speed on. Are there kind of abstractions to these things that that make it easier for people to, like if someone's going to write poker, they might not understand the consensus mechanism or the logic or game theory needed to utilize this mechanism that you just described. Like, is this something that an Ethereum developer has to be aware of, or would there be like frameworks or something that do these things in the background?
You're getting into like cryptoeconomics and like game theory, a little bit of game theory. Those are the people who like really enjoy this space. Yeah.
Right. So like an average developer, maybe they're like they either got to dive into that kind of thing, or they're
Basically, I think we're in a time where all these frameworks around the base blockchain is kind of like a lot of people work on, and there's like different projects for every issue or every logical issue, and I think we have to watch what's going on, like which project will be like, okay, this framework will be the best. It's like browser, which browser or whatever. Every software development time in the early stage, everybody builds something, and eventually we find some best practices. So if you ask the same in 1 year, maybe people will tell you, yeah, use this.
Right. Yeah. Because I think there's a little bit of a gun shyness, after the DAO, for example. People worried that they're not, they're kind of playing with a loaded gun a little bit, And some people, the Ethereum's detractors are like your kind of old school Bitcoin people are make the point that we don't need a Turing complete computer, and introduces all of this complexity and security problems. What do you guys have a position on that, or?
Certainly, having a very simple blockchain does have some advantages. However, even if you were going to go and redesign a simple blockchain, you might not go on Bitcoin. Although Bitcoin does already exist. So.
What would you come up with?
Well, I'm not really sure, but Bitcoin has issues, which are just kind of technical debt.
Issues that have to do with the community or with the institution?
No, it was just the way it's structured. So, for example, having like a single client being a reference client, and that being de facto being how the thing works.
But that doesn't have to be the case, right?
No, it doesn't have to be the case.
Sure.
Yeah, so there's some really big key that does.
But it's not like it would say that I would design Monero if I had to start from scratch, because it's very likely something like that.
Well, people have different opinions.
Okay. But is it likely the development is sufficiently path dependent, and you cannot go from Bitcoin to Monero no matter how much you try to modify the foundations? But you can still get a better community, better clients, multiple clients on Bitcoin. I thought you meant that there are some fundamental design flaws in Bitcoin, even for a simple blockchain, that it would want to get around if you had to do it again.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Yeah.
No, it's a serious speed issue.
A
serious speed issue. Like you try to pay, like there's a coffee shop behind the monkey card. They accept Bitcoin, but they want us to make us wait 25 minutes till the transaction has completed. And it's a bus leaving in 10 minutes,
Have you seen their face when you tell them you want to pay with Bitcoin?
It was funny. It worked in the end. They trusted us that it will succeed. I gave them my email. It's like, if it doesn't work, call me. We'll come back.
So in this case, a lot of times zero confirmation time is used, where when a transaction is witnessed on a network with your signature, you don't have to wait until it gets included into the blockchain, because they just trust you that your transaction won't produce like a double a fork attack or something, double spend attack exactly.
Yeah, but people in the bar, they were selling us the coffee. They didn't know it. They just saw it pending, and it's like, no, you cannot go. It's pending.
Okay.
No.
But
this is like the usability issue about it. You know.
Yeah.
They did that to me yesterday, actually, and then after 5 minutes, they realized that the tablet was not connected to the internet in the first place.
So Gary, you received your coins, and what went wrong there is I tried to send you 300,000, but I just created 100,000, so it was kind of an issue, and my transaction didn't went through, and I didn't coded any prevention mechanism to notify me. It just
Right. So the error logic that you were talking about, we didn't have that. So, and it exceeded the bounds of reality based on how we defined it.
Yeah.
And it just didn't happen.
Exactly.
So,
Oh.
it didn't happen, or you have now minus 200,000.
The
No, it
failure was
didn't happen.
silent. It was a silent failure,
Silent.
so you didn't know that.
So in this failure, you can track, you can see.
Yes. So because I created a transaction, I can look it up in a blockchain explorer and see exactly why it's failed. And,
So you did that on purpose for illustration purposes.
That's always nice to say.
I've done a few demos in my day. I don't know how it goes.
Safety.
But the purpose of this was just to illustrate how easy it is compared to the complex technology of Bitcoin to create your own coin and to extend it further with different ideas.
Okay, so for the doubters out there, let's do one and then see how if it really happens in 20 seconds. So you want to send me some more? This is my way of getting my hands on a little bit more Bitcoin. I know how hot it's going to be. You heard it here first.
Maybe it will really increase value over time. So, yeah.
That's it. So I sent it to you 42 coins.
Oh, so you've sent me 42 coins. So we'll give it a minute, but. And now what he's doing is he's opening up Etherscan and just checking on the people at home can't see that, but
And it should be already there.
all right. Let's see. So now you're basically checking the blockchain again.
Oh, maybe I didn't send it to you. Maybe I sent it to the previous transaction because I still had copied it.
Oh, you copied the.
Yeah.
So you sent it. So that's interesting. Like you were looking something up on Etherscan, so you had something else on your clipboard besides my address, besides my destination address, which is here.
You know,
so
we didn't have coded anything to prevent the user to send it to like a non-transaction or not address. And human error is a huge in there. So
Did you ever make the mistake with real money?
not yet.
So what happens if you send to a dead address? Do you still have the Ubud coin that you tried to send to me, or is that now gone?
No, it's gone because I sent it to some address which nobody has a private key for.
Okay.
And it's lost out there. It's burned.
Okay.
Well,
So,
No, that's good. That's also very illustrative. Like I'm learning from these mistakes. I mean.
but I sent it to you again, and you should receive it by now.
Okay.
Luckily, Woodcoin has no value yet.
Oops.
Bitcoin is already a deflating coin. It's 30 minutes old.
It's deflationary. I like
it's like
it.
fry coin.
Okay. So that's actually like all of that helps me understand better what's going on, because when you think of addresses, an address can be a contract, or an address can live inside of this system that we created, right? And they're both kind of addresses are just addresses. So if I want an address inside of my world of Ubud coin, I have one, and then there's addresses that live all over the place on the blockchain, right? So do you see what I'm asking? Like an address is an address is an address, right? So
Yeah, basically an address is just a 20 bytes string.
Okay.
That's it.
right. In Bitcoin, I think public addresses, like only 1 in 10,000 or something actually work. Like if I just typed in a string for a Bitcoin address, the odds are it wouldn't work. And so there's like logic that you can build like to test to see if it's a valid address or not. Is that concept in Ethereum as well?
I think it's matter on how you encode it, because in Bitcoin it's like a certain encoding.
There's a convention to
yeah,
it,
and
like
the
there's some sort of
convention is
mathematical convention to
it's
the
encoded
to the
in
public key.
bytes 85, I think. There's some standard that has disadvantages.
Right.
And currently I don't think we have those encoding in Ethereum. We just use the last 20 bytes of the hash of the public key.
Oh, okay. I see.
Can it be known that a randomly typed address is not a viable address when you type it by the wallet that you're tapping it from? So if I send an address if I send some Ether or Bitcoin to an invalid address on the Ethereum network, would the wallet, if it was intelligent, realize it and prevent me from? So it cannot be known whether the address can be the hash of the key.
Well, this is one other advantage of Uport. That, for example, if you have a Uport account, I have one, then I just forward it to somebody with a Uport account, and if this address isn't associated with one, it wouldn't work. We have to build layers on top of Ethereum to make exactly this error handling possible, but currently we don't have it in place.
Does it work for Bitcoin on the other hand, as far as you know? Like
You mean in terms of wallet validation?
if you have an intelligent wallet and you send to an invalid address.
Yes,
What do you
it should. A wallet should be able to
I think
warn you.
the default node client rejects invalid addresses, but that's not like it's not like a protocol definition. It's just something that the client that everyone runs does.
Yeah.
If you see what I mean.
By the way, we have this in Ethereum as well. So when you trigger an invalid transaction, your node is going to reject this transaction, not including a failed transaction to the chain. So basically, this is a prevention mechanism which is built into the nodes. Yeah.
So if I mistype an address when I send Bitcoin to myself or between two addresses, most likely I'm not going to lose money.
One really important thing with Bitcoin addresses is they have a checksum,
Yeah.
which Ethereum addresses do not have.
Yes.
So there's no checksum encoded in the address itself.
Okay.
In the Ethereum address. That's one like really big difference.
And that's interesting to know as a developer, right? So you check and double check or make sure your own logic is good, because there's no way to just.
I have a question. Let's say I make a smart contract that accepts Ubit coin, and it only when I get 10 Ubit coins that contract will run. So how would I do that? Because how does that contract recognize that it has received Ubit coin?
Currently, we have no logic in Ubit coin built in.
No, sure, no, I understand.
Yeah, but if you have a contract, you can look up the balance of some other contract, right? So if you have your smart contract, you can look up from your contract the balance of some certain address on Ubit coin, because we make the balance public. And based on the balance change or something, you trigger an action.
So, but how does the contract know that it's received an Ubit coin? Maybe it says it's either Ubit coin or it's a Bitcoin or it's some other coin.
So it would have some function which is going to execute the action that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And at the start of that function, you do a check to see whether the balance was over a certain amount. Or something.
But how do I know if the type is a Ubit coin?
Because
the
you'd be looking at the balance at the specific address.
I see.
Of you.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have like an in-space definition for the Ubit coin, which is really simple nowadays. And you just say it's that interface at that address.
And this is where ERC20 shines, because all different tokens have the same interface. You know where you're talking to. You just have to have this semantic map of Bitcoin lives at this address, and Ethereum lives at this address, and Bitcoin lives at this address. So you just have.
Yeah, so you have a kind of a type.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, just like recap if I really understood it. So you have no way to see if the address is actually valid. you're gonna send something to it. And if you want to validate, you could send whatever micro money to it, and if it receives this address is valid. Or
On Bitcoin, I think, because if you want to validate a Bitcoin address, you have a hash checksum.
no, in Ethereum.
In Ethereum, no. In Ethereum, we just have like a string encoded in hex.
Yeah. But if you would send a little of Bitcoin to this address,
Yeah.
and then
The address always receives it.
it always receives, so it doesn't help if I check if it received
No,
it because
it doesn't help.
yeah, you're right.
But you should be able to check programmatically that it arrived as expected, right? Because if you burn it, then and you do it, and just like we did manually,
Well,
right? I see that
you don't see whether you burn it or somebody has the private key for it, right?
Ah,
The address always receives the money, but you don't know if anybody has a key to this address. Basically.
So
Some guy now in China that said, "What the fuck is Bitcoin?"
the Bitcoin lives in the Bitcoin smart contract, right?
Yeah.
In the Bitcoin smart contract, there's a ledger. That's where it has a mapping from addresses to amounts of Bitcoin.
Exactly.
Your Ethereum address is just out in the wild. You know, there's no such thing as receiving it. It's just an address. So all of Bitcoin lives in the Bitcoin smart contract in this like balances ledger. That's why it's not being burned or anything. It's like all living in the Bitcoin program. That's how I understand it.
And it's the same with Bitcoin as well. You never actually have a Bitcoin. There's no such thing as a Bitcoin. There's just a shared database which you have a key that enables you to do certain actions with. It's the same here.
yes.
So if you have a wallet with all these different kinds of coins, your wallet has to go look at the Bitcoin smart contract and then all the other token smart contracts to look up the balances. But I'm actually wondering if you have a Mist wallet, can you add a Bitcoin to the Mist wallet?
If you use the ERC20 standard, yes, you can already.
Makes sense.
I'm just curious, are there other standards being worked on? And what are they? You got a coin standard. Is there another?
So we have really painful experiences with standardization, and it took us for the Ethereum community for about a year to come up to like a token standardization. And token standardization, the first Hello World example is like the trivial use case you can do on Ethereum. And for other standardizations, yes, there are talking about, for example, naming and name registries. There is one called ENS, Ethereum Naming System, which is a layered shared namespace, but it's still just in talks. And it's basically reduces to the question, where is the governance happening and who is in charge?
Mhm.
This is
But I'm curious what standards they're working on. Like I can understand needing a standard for a coin. What are the other things that need standardization?
For example, if we change our Bitcoin just slightly to not mapping addresses to types, but mapping addresses to, for example, strings, then we have a naming system, and we can have it to manage the .eth TLD top level domain, and then we would. So there is one institution called the ICANN, International Committee of Associated Names and Numbers, which manages all top level domains, and they have said already 2011 or something, as Bitcoin and Namecoin arrived, that in near future they can become obsolete because of those technologies. And with Ethereum, we're able to deploy certain technologies with ease. And if we would have a standardization on who can create domain names, when do they expire, how do we prevent domain name squatting, then we could deploy this standard and use it as our top-level domain system.
So that's fascinating. Like that's so now I'm understanding like the value of the world computer and understanding use cases like that. Maybe it's just the way my brain works, but like that's a really cool thing. Like to just no more ICANN. You just automate that, but it works in a fair consensus-based way to manage names, right?
If you can find a way to, I think that ICANN more than managing domains technologically, that's so from the economic point of view, in the sense that it creates the condition for people to be unable to register everything at the same time forever for 5 cents, which is something that you cannot do if you have a decentralized ICANN. Like
Why not?
incentives?
So we can build all this logic inside this as well. So for example, proof of burn. Well, you can register this domain name only for 1 year if you burn some amount of Ether.
Who decides the price point?
Interesting question, and we doesn't have resolved it yet. So that's why ENS is not in place.
But this is like an area of academic study, right? To get the incentives correct and get the logic right, so that it does work once it's deployed in the wild. Because you kind of flip a switch, and then you hope that there's not some sort of even sociological bug, right? Like something you didn't expect people to do, right? It's fascinating. I mean, you could see how it could be a whole, like, a new area of academic inquiry, right? How these things happen.
Academia is just starting to witness Ethereum, and there's really not much academia ongoing in blockchain research.
Yeah, it's
But
still
this
early
is-
days.
Yeah, it's still early days, but it's becoming more and more.
But also it's fascinating because a lot of areas of academic inquiry, all of the data isn't available to all the people all the time, right? Like economists should be loving the fact that Bitcoin exists, because no longer do you have to assume a demand curve of X. You can actually see what the demand curve. You can plot it based on what the records that are in the blockchain. Like it's a wet dream for an economist, or should be, or someday it will be.
Basically, the economists and the banks are working on how they can hide your transaction data in the blockchain, or using private blockchains to do interbanking trade and stuff.
Right. But if there ends up being like some kind of decentralized Facebook, for example, or Facebook running on Ethereum, and there's some way to see if you create a positive post, if it gets posted more than other posts, or you post a negative post and see if it gets posted more than positive posts.
Facebook's business model.
Right. But with Ethereum, then all of that academic material is open for everyone to look at and evaluate and study, basically.
Basically, I think it depends on the person who creates a Facebook smart contract. But I think there's always a possibility to hide this data. You can encrypt it, for example, or whatever. So, not necessary, but in theory, it's possible.
Yeah, let me mention another really interesting project, which is Scenario. They don't run on Ethereum; they run on a separated ledger, but they have engineered a mathematical model for attention, and they call themselves attention economy. And the first thing they are doing is they're doing a decentralized Facebook based on attention economy. So with no tools for advertisement, for example, and like really profound model for how you receive your feeds and who are going to give your notification to push through.
What do you mean that they developed a mathematical model for attention? It sounds like the long-term capital management guys in the 90s that had developed a mathematical model for options, and then they destroyed $30 billion.
I cannot answer this. So
We got to get the Scenario people on the phone. It is a fascinating, without like really sitting down and scratching my head about it. It sounds fascinating, right? I mean, it could be an economy because people only have so much attention. It's like people who come up with time banks, right? To try and equalize things. Everybody has the same amount of time. Everybody has the same amount of attention.
exactly this, and their model is based on a feed, and they ask themselves the question: what should you receive? What should you subscribe to, and who is able to push your content if your content is valued in a certain decentral managed system?
You should read the white paper.
Yes.
But my attention's definitely worth more than yours, though. So just for the record.
Can you the Scenario, or how you spell it?
Scenario, yeah. I can post it in Gitter. That's why we have it for.
We have a sale on now. Coin sales.
Yeah, they have a concept now, but the really early stage and the actually they use
SYNERE.
Scenario.
E, not I.
yeah, right. This one. So the guy, the senior guys, in special Lucius Gregg, which is like the chief scientist, they used to work with the Ethereum Foundation on sharding and scalability, but he's still working on Casper, which is the proof of stake protocol, but they didn't agree on the same virtual machine because the senior guys wanted something mathematical and they went with the raw calculus, which is like a mathematical tool. This is a process calculi which has backed in parallel composition, which is kind of asynchronous by default. And the Ethereum folks don't want to settle down on it, so they went with the EVM, which is a stack machine. Yeah, but they kind of like somewhere in the same sphere.
Does it make sense to touch briefly on, since we're talking about use cases on stablecoin and how smart contracts can help that happen? Yeah, because I'm curious about it. I mean, it's we've been trying to build a Bitcoin economy in Ubud, and the volatility is problematic for lots of shop owners because they don't want something that's worth $100 today to be worth $80 tomorrow. So you've got that issue. So I'm sensitive to it, and I'm interested in how a smart contract or some sort of piece of code running on the Ethereum network can mitigate that for
So like you said, the big problem with Bitcoin and with Ethereum for use in day-to-day transactions is volatility. It makes it very difficult for people to make forecasts of their spending or of their income. It means you're almost having to make a trading decision every time you make a spend.
Yes.
And a stablecoin is an idea to solve this. So what does stability actually mean? Stability means for our cases, we're saying stability means stable relative to some external reference value. And
like a dollar or...
Yeah, and in our like one that you could use as a dollar, most people would accept that as a stable token. Or you could use some basket of global currencies.
Right, like the SDR,
Exactly.
right? Like I can't use an SDR, but we could use a stablecoin that's pegged to it.
Sure. I mean, you can't use an SDR yet. The IMF might do something.
Right.
Something to change that in the future. But
I'm not important enough yet.
sure.
China is now, though.
China is now.
Yeah.
So the renminbi just got recently added to the SDR.
Yeah.
So this is our definition of stability: is stable relative to some external reference value. And there's lots of ways you could do a stablecoin. If you're willing to trust a centralized entity, then you can. It's not completely trivial, but it's pretty easy to do some sort of stable token. You have some token which you hold as much as you hold anything on Ethereum, and which you can then redeem for some given value of some other token at some point. So it might be like you take this token from Stablecorp, and then Stablecorp says, well, you can always give us back this token, and we'll give you back that token, $1 worth.
So they take the risk.
Yeah, they take the risk, exactly. That's a really easy way to do stability, but you have to trust this centralized entity. That's fine. I mean, at the moment, we trust banks, we trust governments, so maybe that isn't such a bad thing. Another way you can do that would be maybe with Hubert. You could trust Hubert to redeem the tokens, or maybe you could pay your membership in tokens or something like that, just to give it some kind of stable reference.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to trust some centralized entity, have the risk of that entity just disappearing or defaulting, then you you need some more decentralized system, and that's where crypto stablecoins come in. The problems they have though is that to have a crypto stablecoin, you need to solve quite a few other difficult problems in order to be able to get that stablecoin there at all. One of those difficult problems we touched on earlier, which is validating that external things have actually happened. And in the case of a stablecoin, one of those really important external things would be price feeds. So knowing what the external reality actually is in terms of how expensive things are. Another problem with them is how do you guarantee to a holder of that coin in a decentralized environment with no legal entity? How do you guarantee to a holder that they're actually going to be able to redeem that for a certain value? There's a few different approaches to this. One of them is the collateral-backed model, where you over-collateralize the token which people are holding. So you're giving some confidence that that token will always be redeemable for at least or for the value that it says that it's worth. Then you need to have ways of dealing with collateral on the blockchain, and you get into you've got more like difficult problems. Like how do you liquidate collateral if you're using some like margin call like model?
There's a collateral problem in general in the world, isn't there?
Sure.
Yeah.
You're describing MakerDAO fundamentally.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, more generally stable coins, but the collateralized model in particular is MakerDAO.
If I'm not wrong, I think MakerDAO tries to solve the problem of the price feed by creating countervailing interest of two different parties that try to push the value of the DAI towards a specific balance point. Is that right?
Well, no, the price feeds in general.
No, MakerDAO does not have a price feed in itself. It just kind of stabilizes the coin by having a buying pressure and selling pressure compress each other towards the desired target.
It does have price feeds.
At the moment or in the future?
Well, at the moment it's all flexible. There's no public.
Yeah, no, but the current plan is to not have price feeds.
No, there are price feeds. But the feeds are selected by the governance.
Yes.
The governance of which is decentralized. So.
Well, that's a form of centralization, though. Like
it's a problem. But they could select. The feeds don't have to be coming from. The feeds themselves could be coming from from prediction market or something like that, for example.
But then why can't you just why do you need MakerDAO to have a stable coin instead of having simply a generic smart contract with a counterparty that you find on Craigslist, for example, and have a sufficiently reliable price feed in the middle, enough collateral that both parties deposit, a date at which the contract resolves, and in this way the farmer has guaranteed the price of wheat a year down the line.
Yeah, so that's
Future
like
kind of thing. So like a kind of future.
yeah,
Yes.
like a futures
Yeah,
contract.
yes.
Yeah, certainly like simpler contracts like that might be much more might have high utility for certain interactions. And when there's a limited number of parties in the interaction, that might be a better choice.
Yes.
One of the projects that Maker has at the moment is Simple Coin, which is trying to make a really basic, simple, stable-ish coin, which people can deploy themselves and then choose who gets to interact with it. And that can be backed by whatever collateral you want to be backed by. But it pushes the problem of governance and feeds onto whoever's deploying the contract, so you don't need the full DAI system.
Yes.
So there's a community behind keeping the coin stable. Is that the idea behind it?
There's a community behind developing the infrastructure, which
Yeah, but there's not. So to keep the value stable, it's not like there's a lot of people behind it that keep it stable. It's really
but there is, but it's probably not. This is probably not correct to call that a community. Rather, it's just a distributed set of crypto economically incentivized actors.
Yeah.
They don't have to know each other. I'm sure they're friends with each other. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Does anybody want to buy a treasury? An actual treasury?
How much?
And make a price tomorrow.
Yeah. Let's stay on that.
I will on the live mic still. Yes.
So what's the world like when these things are working? When we have a stable coin.
Well, I don't know. That's for the users to decide, really.
But Kerry, do you understand now how it's kept stable?
Uh,
Because I did
well,
not get
aren't,
that yet.
aren't there like a series of futures contracts or automated futures contracts that kind of hedge the upside and downside? And when you have the collateral, that like 150% of what's risked as collateral, then if you approach those boundaries, right, you can have a margin call or people can get out of the contract.
Yeah,
So,
the core contracts is this CDP collateralized debt position, which incentivizes people who have collateral and want to go long on that collateral to put it into a contract, but they have to, which they can then take away DAI from the stablecoin. But it's set up so that it's always going to be over collateralized, and if it starts to head down towards becoming equally collateralized or under collateralized, then the system will take that into the collateral into ownership and liquidate it.
what's the incentive to collateralize these coins?
Why would you, as a collateral holder, want to?
Yeah, like if we want like a simple coin to be stable against the dollar, for example, who's going to put up like $1.5 million to have $1 million market?
Well, it would be because then their total exposure to that collateral asset is greater than what they have.
Yeah.
So they're leveraged.
Yeah.
So the incentive is the same as for someone on a centralized exchange to go to take out margin.
Okay.
But it's a market, right?
Yeah, it's just the market.
It's a market. Now I get it.
How much has the maker been collateralized? How much have you?
And the DAI choose.
Sorry, what was the question?
How much have you guys amassed?
We're designing the infrastructure. We won't actually control the collateral anyway, but yeah.
How
But
much?
at the moment, the system hasn't gone public yet, so there isn't any.
I
There's
thought
no
in your
collateral.
forums, people were giving you like $1,000 at some point.
Yeah, that's in return for the like governance token.
Oh, okay. So the governance token is the DAI.
No, the governance token is MKR in the case of Maker.
Then DAI is stable.
DAI is the stable token.
Okay.
So what kind of liquidity do you need to get this in the market?
You mean how many collateral assets you need?
Yeah, so you need to, if people want to trade, there needs to be some liquidity to trade, right?
Yeah, I think ideally you'd need. We've seen quite a few more assets that would be suitable to be used as collateral come out recently. Some of those are like fiat coins. Another one is Digix, that's like gold. Some like Digix might go in the future, maybe would be having not just gold, but maybe like aluminium or copper or something like that. And those would be good collateral assets.
Isn't there talk about Maker owning some DGX as a deposit of last resort in the event that the currencies that are backing the DAI collapse too fast for the?
That isn't the case. I think there was. I don't know if that was specifically what the talk was about, but
I heard about it like 6 months ago that the
yeah, there's been lots of ideas. And one of the ideas at the time, this is kind of before the DAO
yes.
catastrophe. One of the ideas was to have all the DAOs that were starting to exist on Ethereum be kind of invested in each other.
Yes.
So they have this like synergic existence.
And that's like all the banks merging in the US before the crash, pretty much.
Not really merging it. It's
scenario.
like the banks holding shares in the other banks, not necessarily merging.
Yes, but
It's the same thing.
to avoid any one of them going under through the reciprocal obligations, in a sense, for reciprocal ownership. If at some point they do go under, they all go under at the same time. It's the black swan.
Yeah, but I think in that case,
fragility scenario.
yeah, but I think in that case it was more like a bootstrapping, like a community bootstrapping issue.
Okay, so not something that would occur when the system is mature.
No, and it's not. Yeah, we can't say that all DAOs should be invested in all of the DAOs. It was at that point just more of a community like idea. But yeah, then after the DAO happened.
That was a really bad idea. It's like I think Nassim Taleb wrote, I can't remember where, might have been the Black Swan, that if the human biology had been designed by the Federal Reserve, every village would have one big kidney, and every evening you could just go there and just filter your blood.
So that if the one kidney fails, everybody in the village dies. But until it fails, nobody doesn't really matter.
There are some advantages though to having one big central kidney. Like you could get economies of scale, for example, in having like a super efficient.
But that's a trade-off, right? Like you have
Yeah, it's
two kidneys
definitely
because they're not inside your rib cage, and if you get one gets punctured, the other one still works.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it's a good idea. I'm just saying that there are potential benefits to having a centralized kidney.
And there's 2 kidneys, right? So,
Yes.
all right. What else? What else? I mean, we started as a developer discussion, right? We got into some of the developer issues. I mean, I mean, I'm not an active developer, but I've studied computer science. I know some of the questions that came to my mind, just trying to understand even the purpose of a world computer or Ethereum, and that was really good for me. But also, I mean, getting into some of these use cases is very useful for me to get my head around what's possible. You know, the stablecoin example helps me understand. Like trying to think about a decentralized Facebook or something along those lines helps me understand. But I don't know, Dennis, did we kind of did we kind of reach what you were thinking of?
So that's not. No, sorry.
Yeah. Did we like? I don't know if it went the way you expected it would go. I think you thought we might be like kind of hands-on deploying some of the stuff, but kind of got off the rails.
Yeah, I had no expectations whatsoever. So if some of you guys are interested in deploying their own Bitcoin and experimenting with the code a little bit, I can go around and show you how like get on coding for yourself. Let's see. And then we come out even more than I expected. So.
Are there any other questions you guys want to, I don't know, hash out or talk about, or?
I want to ask you something else about Maker, if you don't mind. Okay. When you issue DAI, the DAI are tied to a specific contract that is created at the moment of issuance.
No, is that right? One of the big benefits of the DAI is that it's fungible.
Okay,
so
that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, so it can be used in any of the contracts.
But the
thing that is tied to the contract is the person who took it out.
Yes.
That's what's tied to the contract. The actual DAI that comes out of it itself is completely fungible.
If I remember correctly from the white paper, the contracts themselves are not fungible, even if they can be transferred. The ownership
can be transferred.
Yes. But the contracts themselves are not fungible.
Well, yeah, I mean, a contract represents a specific amount of a specific type of collaterals.
Okay.
Yeah. The white paper was recently not recently, but has been updated.
I read it like a year ago, so
yeah, so
it's
changed. It has actually changed since then.
I'm kind of curious about who you guys are. Like, is this a Bitcoin club? I know you guys are part of the Bitcoin meetup.
It's becoming more of an Ethereum club, I think.
Well, yeah, we started. We're trying to build a crypto economy here. Trying to create like a little sandbox where we can experiment with these kinds of things. Of course, Bitcoin is the first experiment, so we've been trying to get merchants to accept Bitcoin and then educating consumers so there's people who will spend it, right? And fostering that environment. And that's why you can go to Bali Bohemia and have a terrible experience with trying to pay for coffee with Bitcoin. But it's we're stumbling, we're like kind of fumbling around in the dark. That's how it started. But we get together every Tuesday and we talk about, whatever. At the beginning it was Bitcoin, but it has morphed into everything that crypto does that may affect society, make things change. We never run out of things to talk about, and we get together on Tuesday nights. But when we have the opportunity, we have an ad hoc meeting like this, and basically try and learn more. But we would love to, it would be cool to actually try and make a stablecoin work in an environment like this, where we've got the community contacts, we can kind of prime the pump, so to speak, and try and, I'd really love to see this little community be like a sandbox for people to try things. If you want to sell Bitcoin for crypto and create a place where you can just show up and your phone buys your Wi-Fi access for you or something like that, like where you need a real world place Like it's yeah, a geographic playground, if you will. That's really what we're trying to do. If that makes sense.
So you're kind of responsible for some places here accepting Bitcoin.
Yeah, I'm responsible for your bad experience at Polyleukemia, so I'll be like following up to see what.
I think Greg Maxwell is responsible for that bad experience, actually.
Oh, what's that?
Greg Maxwell is probably responsible for that bad
Oh,
experience.
yes. I'm not going to take responsibility for it. I'm happy to point the
What
finger.
was the bad experiences?
Oh, didn't you say like it took
time
long?
it took your transaction, and you couldn't get your coffee because
Yeah,
Oh,
most
okay.
bars let you go if it's under $5.
But it should show them when the transaction succeeds. But if they have internet connectivity, it's
yeah, if you
That's
have
the
like
problem.
a $1,000 hotel bill, it might be like a
Sure.
different
Yeah.
thing.
You wait a little bit.
maybe one thing you could do is run your own mesh wireless network over Uber or something, and have your own private blockchain running on that,
yeah.
which you could then link up with the external, like the big Bitcoin, or Ethereum, or whatever.
Mhm.
In some way, or have have your own local crypto token.
Yeah, I'd love to do something like that. I mean, especially because, you kind of scratch your head and wonder, like, if we all woke up tomorrow morning and the airport's totally closed, all the ATMs don't work, like, how do you survive? Like, and if we had
with Gary Coin.
Bitcoin now.
if we had a mesh network and it hooked up to a bunch of exercise bicycles and I don't know what, be like Gilligan's Island. Did you ever see that show, Gilligan's Island? Anyway, yeah, I think it's fun to think about those things. And I mean, I love community building, and also I think about community resilience. I think about how people cooperate, and I wonder what these technologies, what impact it will have on society. And
It's actually what I tried to, you can really read it here, like some names, I can really write it.
Don't have Scott and Vinay Gupta.
we
Yeah,
could write
it's
some.
actually people who kind of inspired me a bit what Ethereum can lead on. So,
I'll write it in
you should
the
watch some
Gitter.
YouTube of them because they're like gurus of this could happen.
Don Tapscott is an investor, right? Don Tapscott is an
I think
investor.
he has like a TV show. I just saw a TV show about technology, but I'm not sure if it's his show. But he just like explained Ethereum and an example for like 5 use cases to like a broad public. Like this is the link, the video I could send to my sister who is a farmer to make her understand the impact of what we're working on. But
That's the TED presentation we did about a month ago. That's
Yeah.
what you're referring to.
yeah, this I'm referring to.
So what's the name of it? I'll write it in the Gitter.
Don Tapscott.
Oh, Don Tapscott. TED Talk.
It was very good and very accessible.
Yeah, I watched it. I thought it was good.
There's
What
like,
else is up there?
Vinay is it Gupta?
Vinay Gupta.
He's actually, he was talking in Republica in a conference, like a net conference in Germany, and I think he did some more talks, which I like his vision.
Uh-huh. So are you, how did you come across Bitcoin, and are you interested more in Ethereum now, or are you?
I think I'm not so much in Bitcoin. I think I never owned a Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm a front-end developer, and something years ago, a friend asked me, I create this undeletable Twitter, and can you create a front end for me? And I was like working on this, and I started thinking about like getting into this, how it is all working. And actually, I met my friend Eva somewhere in Berlin some while ago. And it's like, wow, she works like for a company. It was like in Israel, like many years.
Yeah.
A year or 3.
I don't work in Ethereum.
So you guys are just visiting from Berlin, and
basically there's a company called Consensus who was like really involved in this business.
yes,
And they had a retreat here like a week ago.
yes.
And I happened to be there as a photographer.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Oh, cool. Yeah, we had a little event with them on Sunday, like a Sunday or two ago.
No, last Sunday.
Was it last Sunday?
Oh no, sorry, the week before.
Yeah.
This
time-
was like
already
just in the before the retreat.
Yeah.
So you are with
fascinating.
consensus. You are with consensus.
Not officially. No.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Working in the New York City office.
What project are you working on?
U-Port.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
Nice.
Do you always get this reaction?
Celebrity.
Some excitement around identity.
How you get your Utio music?
Oh, yeah,
because it's not a
Utio,
consensus project.
Yeah. Well, we had that was one of the ones that they talked about at our Sunday event, and one of the guys gave me a T-shirt. Yeah, but another very cool project. But really, Uport is the thing that people are really talking about, because this identity thing is such a linchpin to everything that you can imagine that every other project will need to use that as a component of what they're doing, right?
Yeah,
So
that's the whole. Everyone kind of assumes it exists, but it's still like a difficult problem, and this is just the start of it.
right. Well, and it's not just a technology problem, right? It's like a
It's very much
sociology.
a network problem too, and yeah.
Because I can remember back when Microsoft wanted to do single sign-on for everybody, and
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah, it's, yeah.
Basically, I have the feeling a little bit that it's like the time where, like in the early internet times, currently there's like a lot of projects working on identity. I think this is one of the most successful, which the DEFCON show. And basically, everybody wants to like define how identity is defined, and there are a lot of competitive projects.
yes,
And there's like Vitalik, like the brain of Ethereum, or
Yes.
the guy who did that, he's like, work together, and because like we're going into this browser war thing. I don't know if you know, like everybody wanted to define the standards, and it took like more than 10 years till people like kind of like, okay, maybe let's find a compromise and call it HTML5 and try to do something everybody can use. So I think
it comes back to governance
I
a
hope we
lot,
have-
right? In governance, it comes back to a lot, right? Like, or how do you make decisions, or when people, like, let's say you're all working on identity and you come to an impasse, right? Like, we should do it like this, or we should do it like that. If you don't have a governance thing to fall back on and say, well, this is how we're going to decide, then you have two identity systems, right? But it's one of those domains where it's really good to have one, right? It's like you don't want 10 railroads companies, right? And 10 gauges of railroad track. And,
tracks. Yeah.
you want a
If you're
standard.
from Bulgaria.
But on the other side, on the other side, it's also good to have some competition.
Yeah, definitely.
So like this Elon Musk guy, he wants other people also to get to Mars.
Right.
He wants
yes.
to build a colony, but he says other people can build a colony as well. So we keep
So you can have
going.
neighbors. Besides the Martians.
Yeah.
They're not very friendly. No, but you've got SpaceX, and you've got what is it, Blue Horizon? Blue something?
The Jeff Bezos one?
Yeah. Blue
The
something.
boring one.
That was pretty slick when they landed that rocket vertically on the pad. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was most.
But you guys seem to be in the lead, at least for the moment, on the identity thing with Ethereum.
Yeah.
Is that? I saw it demonstrated. It was really cool. They did the guy logged in with his phone,
Yeah.
which is like, yes, please. Like, can you please do that for every website that I've got a password manager with 1,000 passwords in it. I'd be happy to throw that away if I could just have this in my back pocket. And it was really fascinating how you've incorporated the social proof aspect. They're like, I can recover my key if I've got 5 friends that can basically validate that I did indeed lose my phone or something.
Yeah, a lot of initial works around key management. I'm thinking about that, and that's just one of the mechanisms for dealing with that.
Key management is, it sounds boring. It's one of those things that's really fascinating if you understand how difficult the problem is. And once it works, it'd be nice to not think of it ever again.
This
Right,
is
but
like the general acceptance problem also with Bitcoin and all these cryptocurrencies, like a not computer nerd is like, has no access to it. It's like, what, a key? Why should I have a key? And why the key is not of metal, you know? So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and people don't want their keys. Like my mom, you know, I'm like, here's a Bitcoin, mom, and she's like, well, you just hold it for me. You know, I'll lose it, or like I'll get some malware on my computer, and you know, we get right back to the kind of, well, with great power comes great responsibility, and not everybody wants that kind of power. You know, it's like, you know, root privileges on the server. Like, I don't want it. You know, but if you can solve that problem in a clever way, where I do control my keys, but if I freak out, get amnesia, or whatever, it can still be recovered. It's like the Holy Grail, right?
Yeah.
And there's so many. You know, I tend to spend my time on the money use case, and there's all these things that happen because we have to trust banks, like all the fractional reserve lending that happens. And if people actually could have their own money, it would it might change some very fundamental things, which I'm really excited about. But it would come down to, can my grandmother like really have her own key? And you know, there's never gonna be a problem.
Do you have a revenue model for Uport, or is it something you're gonna put out there for everyone to use for free and please be happy?
Yeah, I mean, we have some thoughts around it, but there's something defined other than trying to capture as many people using it, as many apps using it.
Yes, and then you think about how to make money later on.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm actually glad you brought this up. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, we think about it, but there's nothing inside yet, or what it looks like.
Because
I think the plan is to do Uport Enterprise will be paid for, and then Uport regular will be open source, or some people adopt it. But you can make a lot of money with the Uport Enterprise version, because the Enterprise you have to be able to revoke keys and revoke access, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's one of them. I think, in my opinion, most of the value will come from systems that you can build on top of that. So there's many closed systems you can build based on having identities.
Right.
And those systems you can build once you have the assumption of identities might be some of the most interesting things, or ways to capture value or have some business model.
Like credit score.
Yeah.
Will you have some control over the identities, not the private keys themselves? But let's say that the Uport, the company, goes rogue at some point. Do you, or at least a group of people behind Uport, do you have any power to disrupt, destroy, mess up, close open the floodgates and destroy everything? Or even once you put the goldfish into the stream, it just goes on its own and there's nothing you can do about it?
Yeah, we have like no mechanism of control.
Yes.
But the big thing we're deciding is like, what part of it is going to be more fully open standards, which part of it's actual Uport product, like being the iPhone app or some other product based on some open standards. So kind of where that line is and what that looks like.
Okay.
But there's still a server behind Uport, right? You guys
Right now, because we pay for like the cost for transactions just to make it easy to use.
So,
like you don't download the blockchain for Uport, like it's just a phone app.
Yeah.
So it's not, I don't know, like 10 gigabytes of data I download on my phone.
Yeah, that's
So
it.
you use, like I know MetaMask, which does similar things like having an IPA, and what you use, like you use.
I guess it's similar, except in MetaMask you start to pay your own transactions.
But which
Yeah, it's pretty similar
API
to
you
also
use?
paying-
Like it's in Fura, or is it?
Yeah, we're using
MetaMask
Fura.
based on the Fura.
Yeah. And like, so we have a server paying for transaction costs and stuff.
So unless there's more to say about Uport, I would like to ask about this profitability question, because it's come up in other Ethereum conversations. And when all of your code is open source and when everybody is executing everything, obviously Bill Gates wouldn't like this idea, right? Presumably, and the idea of closed source software or proprietary software goes away. And does that take the profitability away from 50% of the business models out there, for example?
Well, I think Dr. Evil would say it's about the price of ether.
Oh, really?
I mean, if you really think about it, what is this about? It's about making Ethereum a global system. It's really popular. So we're all okay if it's it becomes a stable currency.
Okay.
So you mean that you own Ether, you want it to be successful, so you build on top of it things that will make it successful, so that your own investment will become more
I'm not
Valuable,
saying
is that
that's
what you're saying?
yeah. I'm not saying that's the reason Uport exists. We also want to change the world,
Yes.
but the safety in all of this is that Ether has already risen to a decent price, so we're all kind of doing well. If you, we can also add transaction fees on top of everything.
Yeah.
But either way, there's two backup plans, right?
Do you also work for Consensus?
Yes.
What project?
I'm a UX designer, so I work across different projects. We have an energy project that I help out with. Called, tokenizing energy. So
Transaction rate?
What?
Transaction rate?
yeah, that and then City, which is one that we have in Germany with a company called Energy. And yeah, it's about you're a prosumer with solar panels on your house, and Germany has one of the highest rates of solar panel installations for DIY homes. And you can sell your surplus to a local school or supermarket, which is great because the load is high for that during the day, and then at homes you go to work during the day or school during the day, so it's a good match. And so it's a virtual market to sell energy surplus to a local store or supermarket.
Like the idea of this project is genius. I don't really know about this unique project. In theory, you can have like all autonomous systems dealing energy. Like you have a solar panel which has like a blockchain thing. You have like
What about my
fridge
exercise bike?
has a blockchain
My exercise bike?
connection.
Can I like hook that up?
Yeah, and
My-
you can earn more certain times of the day than you would at night.
Yeah, and you can have a battery, and all dealing the energies, like the battery say that like the solar panel sells out the energy in the daytime because it expects, because of the internet weather forecast, they're gonna have sun. But if there's no sun, the solar panel have to fulfill his contract, so it has to buy some energy from the battery to fulfill its contract.
Yeah.
So you can imagine like a really autonomous system dealing with very high efficiency.
Right.
Based on autonomous trade.
Yeah. It's also when the machines take over, right, and kill us all, and like Arnold Schwarzenegger comes back in the future in order to kill Vitalik.
I love the idea. It sounds so efficient.
No, it's
in a small
it's an
network,
awesome
like
idea. I
in your
really love
caravan
that.
or in your local community with like some houses with like energy self-sufficient, and then you think your washing machine, it doesn't need to run in a time. It runs when the energy is cheap, like when the sun is out or when in the night when nobody needs any energy and it's still produced. So
right. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's really when we first introduced the concept of the blockchain and that there could be a token of value and that you could attach logic to the token, it's the first time that it, either a person or a corporation, something besides those two things is actually owning money. And then if those things can communicate and trade with one another and establish really low friction markets for these things they're trading, then we all get a better result, right? We get lower bills for our washer and dryer, for example, because it runs.
I don't really see it in the builds point. My personal motivation about this is like energy and sustainability.
Yeah. Well, that reminds me. Is anyone working on a cap and trade system for emissions or creating an emissions token?
For our renewable energy credits.
Yeah. The idea that you can basically, how much CO2 can be emitted into the atmosphere. You cap it at that, and then you allow people to trade.
Dealing with these certificates don't really want to have a token where anyone.
Right.
Like, there's
a lot of political.
Yeah, I think the cap and trade specifically is the biggest difficulty is political.
Yeah.
Political should be integrated with the political system.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
It's very often political issues.
We're also wondering why there aren't a lot of solar panels in Bali. We don't see that many.
Well, you know what? I actually, the Viceroy Bali, big hotel, accepts Bitcoin, and they just did a project where they tried to create a building that was going to be like basically the example of an efficient building. They put solar panels on the top. They did like proper insulation, and I think I talked to the owners over there, and it's got like a 27-year payback period or something like that. So, he did it they did it kind of based on a philosophical choice, but he wasn't sure if if it was going to depreciate quicker than it was than repay the value.
Cheap on this island, lonely petrol. I don't know. I assume you're living here for longer.
Yes, petrol is quite cheap. That's true.
I'm really confused. Like for $1, we drove like 10 times of our scooter. It's so cheap.
It's
because
subsidized.
this is why your solar panel takes 30 years. If it with the same price of energy for petrol in Germany compared to Germany, your solar panel will be like have payout in 10 years. So why it's so cheap?
But you don't use when you use petrol or coal to generate electricity back in Germany, you don't pay. It's not taxed in the same way as the gasoline that you buy at the station. So it's still there's a baseline of price that goes for the fuel that goes into the electrical station that is more or less the same.
I think that Indonesia, or if not Indonesia, at least Malaysia, has very significant oil reserves, and they are being pumped out.
And if the price was higher, people would not be able to afford transportation. So.
Yeah, but it's
not a market price.
It's a very delicate issue in Indonesia, the price of gasoline.
So it's political.
Very
price,
political.
price.
Yeah. It used to be half the price 3 years ago,
Mhm.
and now it is somehow packed with the real price, but on a certain
Like 3-4 years ago, the barrel raw oil price was like double compared to today, and it was still cheaper here.
Half the price.
Okay.
It suddenly went up with 50%.
Doesn't that make you want to do your next project in Bali? You can come here, you can hang out, you can have very cheap gasoline bills.
That's what we're trying to do, actually.
It's like kind of like a type and scoot at the same time.
This is what we're trying to do, actually. We're trying to convince a number of people that would be like, let's say, high value added members of the Ethereum/Bitcoin community to move to Bali or to work on a project for 6 to 12 months a year at a time, which I think many people would like to
imagine to do this.
Actually, we just saw Vlad's up here.
Yes, it's still here.
Well, he wouldn't tell me where he's going. He wants to be alone. So, but yeah, he's somewhere where digital nomads go up north.
Yeah.
He was at the meeting last week. Yeah.
I think a lot of people around here. Well, we're always thrilled when people like you guys come. Usually we're just watching you on YouTube and things, and it's like, for people who can appreciate these things, it's kind of like, rock star celebrities showing up. So we really love that happens. And then, if people decided to do their projects here or come, once a year for a short time to work on a project or get the team together or something, that would be really fantastic for the people that live here that are following these things and interested in these things.
So are you thinking more from like a grassroots crypto development perspective rather than a larger scale one?
In what sense? Sorry.
So for example, in the Netherlands, there is a sandbox environment on a regulatory level for messing around with various schemes to do with cryptocurrencies or whatever, and that gives you kind of some as a developer or as a legal entity, which is some kind of protection against whatever various liabilities you might normally incur from setting up crypto development schemes or whatever. But I'm guessing that's maybe not what you want to do here. Maybe you want to do something which is more based on like peer-to-peer, true peer-to-peer usage.
I would say yes. If developers, I always ask people like you, why did you decide to come to Bali? And usually it's why I like surfing, right? But if the answer was because there's a cool thing happening here, that would really give me a thrill if that someday was the case, where it was like a cool place to show up and who knows you're going to bump into, Vlad or you guys or.
Another view, if you sublet an apartment in New York for 3 months, you can get a flight here and back and pay everything.
Yeah, true. So anyway, we've been toying around with how we could get people interested in such things.
Yeah, I didn't realize that co-working would be so easy here. It seems like there's a network of co-workers, co-working spaces.
Yes. Are you talking one here, one in Thailand, one in Australia, or?
Even just Chengdu and here, and then there's one south of the month before us.
Yeah, outpost. Yeah, and there's lots of because there are good co-working spaces here, there are interesting people that roll through here all the time. You know, like Tim Ferriss comes through and people like that.
Buffer came here or something for a retreat, company retreat.
Yeah, Change Tip brought their whole team here,
Oh,
and took over this villa back behind Hulu.
Remember when I heard.
Well,
Griff Green also came here, and then the DAO was hacked.
yes, Griff Green was here for. You guys know who Griff Green is?
We saw my Burning Man.
Yeah.
What was he doing here?
He was just here, like before he ever got involved with Ethereum. He was here just hanging out.
I just want to ask, was he wearing a Santa Claus costume or not?
Anyway, yeah, that's someday maybe. Yeah. Well, should we put a bow on this thing? We've been at it for a couple hours. Are there any like final thoughts, questions?
Basically, I think I missed a little bit why I was actually here. I thought we were like caring about dapple.
Oh,
But I kind of missed this, or like I don't know, like this was like the planned talk, or
The plan was to have a talk around this and show like small features. Actually, originally we thought we make it hands-on, so you guys would be sitting with laptops there and do like go around and install Debian, and then we deploy each other's coin, and then he would have a Gary coin, I would have a Denis coin, and then we would trade and trade with you and have
okay.
some sort of session. Yeah, but so what you're interested to hear?
My like I work with Truffle a bit, and I had some people recommend me you should use Truffle, and I actually ran into some kind of early for my little knowledge into like restrictions of the system, the Truffle system, and I was like really curious what defines dapple compared to Truffle.
So Truffle is great as well. The way we compare it is like Truffle is built for front-end developers to build also contracts and then interact with it. Dapple is built for contract systems, so we don't build Dapple in mind for UI builders, but for upgradable systems and for systems which deploy other systems, so really complex, scalable contract systems.
Basically, I work in both. This is
Okay. So for example, we have this complex scripting language, which you can do like a multi-environment scripting, for example, more than ETH and ETC in parallel, and do all sorts of migration, deployment, and transaction triggering, which is called DappleScript. We have integration and unit tests and chain forking as by default. So when you run a test, it is integration test by default, and you can fork off any chain. This is one feature which Denis Erfurt got in the latest version as well. But yeah, so this is where Dapple shines.
Yeah, we got a quick tutorial of Dapple from Nick Dodson
Yeah.
in Tokyo. It was a pre-actual hackathon. But it seems really cool that you don't have to write promises.
Exactly this. So from our perspective, the most familiar language contract system writer use is Solidity. So we write Solidity as unit test, Solidity as acceptance test, Solidity as integration test, and Solidity as scripting language. So you don't need JavaScript at all when you program with it, just like Solidity, because you code everything in Solidity as well. And with this, you can have code reusage. So for example, logging and decorating and debugging and stuff like this. You can use it for on-chain deployment or for off-chain scripting, for example, tests. If you're interested, I can show you some of the latest features.
Not today.
Yeah, it's kind of late.
Yeah, it's kind of like.
But you guys are both from Berlin, right?
Partly, yes.
Partly.
Sometimes you're from
Yeah,
Berlin?
I'm from Berlin myself, so.
Okay, I will be there in mid-November.
Yeah.
But
So
you're
can
not
just
here for some more time.
No, unfortunately, I'm leaving tomorrow for Chengdu on some surfing. But we can exchange like contacts and.
Yeah. Basically, I just need to get started. I was like, okay, maybe easy. Just
Anything else?
Yeah, I want to ask a question since we have a few developers here. The Bitcoin never had a killer app, and I have a feeling they will never have a killer app.
Vitalik once said the killer app is the Silk Road.
The Silk Road.
Was the killer app. I mean, that's the joke. But
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, it brought it make it go from 10,000 people to maybe 5 million people, but there will not be a billion people moment for Bitcoin. I have a feeling. There might be for Ethereum though. What would be the killer app for Ethereum, and would that be something different than for Bitcoin?
I think it's hard to narrow it down to any one specific app. Part of the strength of Ethereum is in having lots of different apps which can then interact with each other.
Correct.
So it's a very so maybe the killer app is this ecosystem. I see what you mean though. There might be one like hook, one thing which really pulls people into it.
Yeah, most things only go viral if the utility does not just depend on there being an existing network that runs on them, but if they are independently useful to you.
Yeah. So one thing I'm very excited to see would be a completely decentralized Dropbox alternative.
Yes.
That would be. I don't think that would give Ethereum like 1 billion users, but I think it could give it a significant.
It must be anonymous in order to be a, which is not like working yet.
But then it would take 5 years to make it as good or good enough to compete with Dropbox, I guess. Like the amount of work that is going to Dropbox and making it usable, stable, all the apps, the interface is something that has taken a very long time. There must be something new that cannot be made. Cannot be
Yeah,
done
so there might be
by
some market we haven't thought of yet.
I have a proposal. If Estonia changes its voting system to Ethereum, like Estonia is like very progressive in the digital world. This would be like a very global use case, which I could imagine. Like just for example, I think there are like a lot of potential things which could like attract like really big attention.
And it may be that people don't realize that it's Ethereum that's making it happen, but that their credit score is much more appropriate to their actual history than it used to be, or something.
Maybe the assassination markets would be the killer app once Donald Trump becomes president.
Maybe.
So I think to rephrase the question, what is a killer app of the blockchain is kind of like
What is it?
a killer app of the
Yes.
blockchain is like asking what is a killer app or what was the killer app of the transistor once it was like into the device, and then first once the transistor got like its true incompleteness, what was the killer app then? And I would answer this question with operating systems, obviously. First like this big mainframes thing, but then like distributed and operating systems. So I think if Ethereum managed to get like one workable equivalent of an operating system, which would be, from my perspective, be a working governance model on top of the blockchain, which works, which would be for me.
But wouldn't this be a requirement for for Ethereum to actually produce a killer app? Because in terms of killer app, I'm asking, what is a product that makes the average person an offer that just can't refuse? Something that they become so self-evidently useful immediately that you go from 1 million to 1 billion people.
Well, to turn the question around and try and clarify it, then, what do you think the killer app of the internet was?
Email.
Okay.
Probably, yeah.
But email
World
existed
Wide Web.
before the internet, or World Wide Web. Yeah.
Well,
The graphical web browsers, maybe.
How about the web?
Yeah.
Search engines.
Okay.
Porn.
Yeah.
If we can teach people about private keys and stuff, or the importance of managing your own data, maybe import is. I'm not sure.
True. But I tend to follow this space quite closely, and even to me, it took several months of different people talking about, tangentially discussing the topic of identity, to get to the core of what a decentralized identity is. And even when I try to explain to other people, they don't seem to think it's anything important, anything that really matters, even if it does, because they're too attached to tangible ideas of the identity as the piece of paper that the government gives you, much like the private key is the thing that should be made of iron, or the money is the thing that is made of paper bills.
But this is why I choose like the voting system on the state level, because like it requires identity and proof level, and I think it's not possible.
Yeah, well, it could be a technology. Like I think it's going to be like under the waterline in terms of public consciousness, but life will simply get better, right? Like our whole legal construct that we have today, like makes civilized life possible, right? It allows for insurance, land title. It allows us to interact peacefully, right, with this legal framework that we have to rely on if somebody is a bad actor. And we all of us probably don't think about it on a daily basis, that we've got this thing in service to us and in service to humanity, kind of under the surface, that allows things to happen. But yet there it is. This could be, orders of magnitude more efficient legal framework or cooperation framework, so that who knows what's possible when you can take all kinds of things for granted because these things are just working behind the scenes.
Like other people working on decentralized Uber and decentralized Airbnb, where you don't you can ask your guys around there, they don't really want to give 20% away for like nothing.
Yes, I think when the internet revolutionized communication, things like Ethereum will revolutionize is ownership. So, for example, with identity, you own identity. With money, you own money. And with more things, you will own more things. For example, with Uber, you would own your company.
No, I know why it's better and why it will work eventually, but I don't see the crowbar that will break into the public awareness. All these things at once, or at least slowly, that will the Trojan horse that will make it possible for the average Joe to see a clear advantage today to get in on Ethereum.
I don't think it will be a revolution. I think it will be an evolution. For example, you don't notice the benefits the internet is giving you, right? Even when you don't use it on your smartphone every day, it's still there, but you cannot imagine a life without it.
Yes, but there was a moment in 1983 when AT&T gave all college students access to the internet, and they all saw the benefits of it immediately.
Well, the college students are receiving 1 Ether or 1 Bitcoin right now. For example, I think it was an MIT project where they distributed all college students 1 Bitcoin to just experiment with it, and they see the benefit of it as well. So it isn't like the broad sphere of humankind which benefits from it, like MIT students do.
Let's rejoin the conversation 5 years from now and see what the answer was.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I think you should ask this question every year.
Well,
I think 5 years.
I'd agree that Ethereum itself would never be I don't think it would ever be public. I think it would be just a technological backend. So which just an enabling technology. Rather than something that people would feel like they need to make a conscious effort to get into. It would just be the services present themselves, which are demonstrably better than whatever there was before.
Mm-hmm. And most people don't use browsers, but don't know what browsers are anyway. Like it's the thing that you press with the button and then it opens. Yes. Yeah. Do you? One last question, since I have you all here in the same room. With proof of stake, the inflation rate of Ether would go from somewhere between 0 and 2%, according to either Vlad or Vitalik. I think it might even be as high as 6%, from what Vlad told me about during the meeting last week. Do you have any thoughts on whether the Ethereum network will be sustainable with 0% inflation? And if transaction fees alone would manage to keep
with 0% inflation?
Yes.
Well, the Ethereum, the Ether token exists to pay for gas, which pays for transactions. As long as it can keep doing that, then I would call that a functional network. So as long as the network can keep on, people can keep on running.
I think that the idea is that the somewhere below a certain threshold of inflation, the game theory breaks down, and the incentive for the stakers.
Yeah. I don't know.
You mean when the gas price is too high for DApps to run?
No, for the
consensus algorithm to function.
Yes. So the incentive for the not miners, how would you call them?
Stakers.
For stakers would be too low to want to invest Ether in securing the network or something along those lines. So in the same way we see
the energy for the computers.
Yes. Maybe I think there's some.
I'm not sure. Yes. I'm not sure which is for the same reasons that, well, probably much similar reasons than Vitalik and Vlad are not sure yet what that inflation should be.
From what Vlad told me, they all think that it's quite likely the 0% would be enough, but that in their eyes, since Ether is not supposed to be digital gold, and there's a non-zero chance that 0% inflation would cause the network to fail, rather to a somewhat higher level of inflation. They're more interested in having a somewhat high level of inflation, keep it permanent, which will make the Ether have a permanently higher inflation rate than Bitcoin starting from 3.5 years from now. And they're willing to debase the currency constantly as long as it makes sure that this non-0% chance never materializes, according to that.
Yeah, so Ether would be less useful as a currency,
Yes.
or more accurately, be less useful as a
Store of value.
store of value.
It depends on the inflation rate, right? Because
Right, no,
there's
exactly.
always a burning of Ether going on. So if for example, if I implement something wrong, some user will burn some Ether by sending it to some address which has no private key associated to it or contract.
But what if you become good enough that we have sufficiently good safeguards to prevent that
Then
becomes
there
very
is
useful over time?
strategic Ether burning. There is
From
this
who?
as well.
Like the gas is burning Ether. No?
No, the gas is distributed to this
But you
party,
have to
which
pay for transactions
Yeah,
in Ether.
that
It
gas
just
is
goes to someone else.
Let's go to the miner.
Yeah. But still I can choose consciously to burn Ether in some use cases, and there are use cases already. Right, so
But that's probably not enough to countervail a 1-2% inflation rate per year. I don't think that 1-2% of Ether would be burned every year for stupid reasons or for whatever.
I would say currently definitely.
like
And Bitcoin probably in the first few years had a burn rate of 10% per year.
All right.
Perfect.
Yeah, should we leave it there? We've been at it for a couple hours. Anyway, thanks for coming out tonight, guys. It's great to have you here in Bali, and great that you're willing to spend some time with us and share what you got going on. Really appreciate it. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks.
All right.
thanks for
See you later.
making
See you next year, right?
It's working. Yeah, you're
Okay.
just in.
I'm a closure actually. Okay. I've been here today.
Okay.